Well, I started off, I really don't have any artistic ability myself, but I have a keen eye to know it when I see it. And so I started off collecting antique clocks, and then I went to bronze statuary and oriental rugs, but the lamps always drew my attention, in the glass and the beauty. And as the years went along, the most unusual thing happened. I happened to be in Kalamazoo, Michigan. That's a college town, and I have relation there. But anyway, I was in a little corner mom and dad grocery store, and just inside the door was a little cork board with all these different advertisements. You know, sell your lawnmower, or I do painting, that kind of thing. And on there was Handel lamp for sale. So I called and I went over there, and this elderly lady had this Handel lamp base. And so I bought it from her. And as I was leaving, she said, "Young man, my husband was in the lamp repair business for 60 years, and that 6-stall garage right there was his, and it's filled with stuff. Would you be interested?" Would I? So I had a look and asked her what she wanted for it, and I paid her. She had a stipulation that it had to be broom clean. Everything's gone. Luckily, it was Kalamazoo is a college town, 2 great colleges there. And so I hired these strapping young men, and I brought in a 40-foot dumpster, and probably half of it or more went to the dumpster, but the rest of it was just like gold. All of these pieces and parts for lamps and clocks and so forth. A lot of glass, the brass pieces and parts in these lamps, you know, nobody's got them, but I do now. And so as the years went along, the people who had these fine old lamps, if they wanted them to repaired, my name got around, and it brings, I don't know if joy is the right word, but a good feeling to be able to help people return those fine old antiques back to once they were. And so I do that, and I still have a lot of those pieces and parts. In fact, when the Egon Neustadt lamp collection came to Lakeview Museum 3 decades ago, I loaned a couple of my lamps that they did not have, and also I provided that group with a lot of pieces and parts that they did not have. So that was kind of an exhilarating thing for me. I bought at auction 3.5 decades ago some Tiffany glass, and this glass was the turtle backs that were used in Tiffany lamps and Tiffany glass, like church windows and so forth. And I bid on it and won. And so I had that glass around. If you hold it up to the light, it is called Fravel iridescent glass. It's just beautiful. And Tiffany made their own glass in Queens, New York. That's where Louis Comfort Tiffany was born. That's where his business was his whole life. Lived to be a very old man, but he really had quite a business, and salespeople all around the world, Scotland and England and Germany, and you know, he sold. If you were going to build a cathedral, you wanted Tiffany lamps and glass in there. And so he was a wealthy man. His home burned down in New York in 1935, which destroyed a lot of glass and windows and lamps. But there's a lot of it out there. They were in business for 7 decades, and so they manufactured a lot of pieces and parts and lamps and glass through all those years. And I might add, one of the people who headed up the Tiffany Girls Department was a lady named Clara Driscoll, and that was not discovered until 2007 in New York, and that's where Tiffany was born and lived his whole life, and so that's where the archives are. And it was discovered that this lamp right behind me, which is the wisteria, was actually designed by Clara Driscoll, and other lamps as well. This particular lamp has, in the description, it says 2,000 pieces of glass, but actually it's 2,150. I counted them. I would have interest in reading his patents and trademarks, even though they are closely guarded, like the Coca-Cola recipe. Nobody ever gets their hands on that. I would like very much to see the ingredients in the glass and how he did it. All old glass, if you look at all of it, this lamp right here, this Handel, is a good presentation of that ripply texture. And the reason is, if you built a house 100 years ago, the glass would be poured onto a marble slab in a molten state, and then as it hardened up, it would be cut away and sliced, but one side of it would be ripply, and that was the impression that was made from the marble slab, because the marble is never completely flat. Well, Tiffany glass is really special. Tiffany manufactured all of his own glass, unlike many of the other glass makers and lamp makers a century ago. The Kokomo Glass Company, which by the way is a long-time 125-year-old American corporation in Kokomo, Indiana, they still manufacture glass. But they don't manufacture like Tiffany did. Tiffany would bring that glass to over 2,000 degrees and add metal oxides to get these different colors. And he named iridescent Fravel. That's Fravel glass right there. And it's just a beauty that nobody else could, even though it was patented and trademarked, nobody else could reproduce it. And if you got the right kind of light, and then when that newfangled stuff called electricity came out in about 1890, that really pushed these beautiful lamps to the beauty, recognized beauty that they are. Well, importance and value, there are a couple behind me. One is the wisteria, and the other one is over here, it's the curtain border. Both of those used an enormous amount of resources to put them together, and the sales were not that great. As an example, the wisteria, in 1905, that lamp sold for $1,250. You could buy a new Ford for $400. So if you see, that was an expensive lamp, and it really only appealed to the rich and famous types. My favorite lamp is the brickwork, which you can't see from here, but it's a 22-inch shade, and when you get a chance to look at it, you'll see that each piece of glass, each course of glass gets smaller as it ascends to the top, and it gives it an extra dimension of height and width. And architects use that same principle in building roof lines. So far as the lamps and where they are, they're so beautiful. I have them in my home in Peoria and in Naples, Florida. There are some things that belong in archives and protected that way and so forth, but it's my feeling that these beautiful lamps ought to be out where you can see them every day. And just walk through here now, although the museum has displayed them much better than I could have at home, but and that's one of the reasons I like to share. Not many households would have these beautiful antiques like Karen and I have, so we're just pleased to be able to share this beauty. Well, the lamps, let me back up. Last Sunday, this place was full of children. And if you expose children at an early age to the cultural things like are on display here today, they'll come back, and it's going to spark something in them, and maybe they'll be a great artist someday.